I would like to share some input presentation about digital competences for youth workers and young people. It is part of a workshop, and I will go through main ideas which we, together with partners in digital systemic cooperation partnership, gathered from various sources, hoping that this will help you to start thinking about your organization and how you address needs of youth workers and young people to develop important, essential digital competences. I would like to start from a bit bigger picture, and I would like to bring in the ideas of having a digital youth work strategy. And I borrow some ideas from Michele De Paula, who will be also present in one of the workshops. And here he suggests a couple of ideas regarding how and what should be built into digital youth work strategy. Michele starts from exploring a bit preconditions. We need to understand that we are operating as youth work, as non-formal education in the times where it's mostly internet platforms. It's the age of internet platforms. And I think we are also entering into a new era where it will be much more AI mediated life work and learning. So we need to understand in which kind of conditions we are implementing youth work. And one important aspect Michele advocates for that we need to have more security regulation considering about rights of young people. Because these are important to make sure that young people in society can access safe and regulated to some extent, and we shouldn't overstate the regulation, but certain issues what Michele is addressing, that, for example, anybody can access anything. It's not in real life where we have young people who might be vulnerable in some situations. This might be really damaging their development as young people, as individuals. And then building blocks for the strategy. These are suggestions. One of the elements should be looking how in organizations and on national level, local level, what do we do about training of youth workers? Because they are essential people in implementing digital youth work. So what are our strategy in training youth workers? Do we have time? Do we have opportunities? How much they care about their professional development, understanding that there are a set of competences needed to implement digital youth work. Another important building block is addressing the equal access to devices and connectivity. And here, although statistically, it seems many young people nowadays, at least in Europe, they have access to devices and have access to reliable internet, but it might be not the case for everyone you engage with, and not in case in places everywhere. So what is the strategy to overcome the main barrier that young people cannot access devices and connect to internet? And this should be looked through bigger perspective, where might be many services, digital services, which young people cannot access due to not having devices or good, reliable internet. And we're talking about public services, can be private services, for example, banking, and so on. What else Michele is highlighting, that every strategy, youth work strategy, should take care of aspects of recognition of youth work, because youth workers play an important role, especially in developing critical thinking, critical media literacy, citizenship skills of young people. So themselves, young people need to have, youth workers need to be also recognized, playing a big role. It's also starting from a bit of self-recognition, because sometimes we say, digital youth work is not for us because we do other type of youth work. So we observe in these kind of conversations that not necessarily ourselves recognize a role in digital youth work. But I think if we go back to the rights of young people, digital rights, it's a big part of our work. Tackling inclusion and digital divide, making sure that people who have access, they are included. If they don't have access, how do we make sure they are included? Where are diversity of needs, but also thinking that digital youth work can include those who are maybe not naturally coming to physical activities with young people. In some cases, pandemic showed very good signs of, youth work started offering online activities. Suddenly, some groups of young people from some areas of geographical isolated areas, or when they feel isolation, they connect and not necessarily are able or want to be present in physical meetings and activities. It's important to think strategically what tools and platforms we can develop ourselves, considering the precondition that not necessarily the platforms which are used widely for anybody and any mission, they're suitable for youth work, because sometimes there are contradictions between goals of youth work and goals of platforms. So investing into developing our own tools and platforms is essential and might be not possible for one organization because of expensive processes, but then if it is developed on the national level, maybe international level, then it's more accessible and costs are distributed. And one important element of such strategy is to have defined funding and investment. Across Europe and municipalities, the ones who prioritize digital youth work and dedicate funding, you can see almost across all the elements of strategy impact. So there are more youth workers who are trained and able to deliver quality digital youth work. There are solutions to increase access and also inclusion is better tackled. And also in some cases where are funding and investment available, we see new tools and platforms emerging and used across the sector. So these are the important building blocks for digital youth work strategy. In our case today, we'll be mainly concentrating on preconditions a bit and training youth workers, so looking at competences. If you want to know more about strategic design and building, we have an activity on our platform which you can go in, and there are at least 3 activities. One is designed more for young people to get engaged in building strategy, and then one is more for youth workers, and then for management and leadership. So seeing 3 little faces, that's the badges which invite you to do action. So after today, you can open up and look at what you can do in your organization. Very practical, down-to-earth activities. Coming back to digital rights of children and young people, you already shared and a bit prioritized what and which rights are important. There's also an activity on this on the platform, but one of the important underlining messages that digital youth work is actually a response to young people's digital rights. So whenever we need to give argument about why youth work, digital youth work should be implemented, it's because to address digital rights of young people. The whole youth work, in many cases, is justified because young people have rights, and they're a bit unique because of developmental processes young people experience in that age group. That's one of the reasons we kind of take out the group of young people and talk about their rights. And digital youth work directly responds to specific digital rights. Again, another activity, if you want to go and practice talking with young people about their rights, talking with young youth workers and establishing your priorities on addressing these rights, and then on an organizational level, you can go on with a more strategic prioritizing. So which rights you would, let's say, put for this year and address very consciously and specifically what are the maybe ethical considerations, priorities, and so on. So where is an activity waiting for you to address? And now I would like to dive into digital literacies. And I think Doug Belshaw, one of the colleagues, he developed a very interesting approach to digital literacies, which he calls essential elements of digital literacies. So he goes through several elements, which how you can look at developing digital literacy. Cultural. So what are the digital norms and platforms, and how do they change, evolve as we have different technologies appearing? Yeah. How do we start learning when AI is helping us, or how do we participate when there are new channels to reach out to policymakers? One other element is cognitive, understanding how we process and apply digital knowledge. So how do we really think and process all, let's say, vast of information, or new ways of organizing our lives and so on. What do we think about these processes? One other element is constructive, which is about remixing and creating content. And here, where are a lot of things, young people are really much involved in creating new stuff with technology. And we often hear about copyright issues and how young people can do it in a good way. But this is the part of contribution to whole life online, if you can say it. Communicative, its ability to communicate, express, and connect in a meaningful way, exchanging and new modes, new ways of communication poses new challenges, but also new opportunities. Confidence, it's exploring and adapting to new tools, new technologies. I think one of the interesting aspects of this literacy model is that it doesn't stick to one technology type or one tool type. And that's sometimes we kind of create a model and then we stay on the level of technology we have. But here, this one invites to go beyond just tools and technology. Creativity using technology with imagination, with approaching problems maybe from new aspects and perspectives by using technology which is new. Critical, evaluating source and power structures behind technology, both content, but also if we now look into algorithms and how technology is developing, who has power to shape our minds, thinking, imagination, and lives, that's important to understand. And civic, exercising participation responsibly in digital society. So these are the elements where we can build up youth media digital literacy programs. And again, just to stress, it's just going beyond just one technology, one tool. Why these literacies matter? It promotes active, safe, and critical digital participation, support inclusion, self-expression, and civic engagement, and then help bridging generational and digital divides. Since they are not so much about specific technology, but other elements of literacies, they can be cross-generational, and also you can have starting points where people can start their learning processes in terms of digital divide. Now going to youth workers, there is a new competence model for digital youth work, which is designed for youth workers. And here, the research, which was done through the digital youth work cooperation partnership between Erasmus national agencies, it identifies 5 areas of competences where youth workers should have knowledge, skills, attitudes, and ability to implement in practice. One is supporting creative self-expression, shared guidelines, and peer learning. It's about being able to, first of all, establish certain agreements with young people about how do we use and learn about digital technology, but also how young people teach each other different practices, different tools. Digital rights, something what we already addressed extensively, ability through youth work to connect and address digital rights of young people, critical digital literacy, and identity growth, understanding that young people, they have their extension of identities online, and then how do you build up around this, plus also professional identity of youth workers, professional presence of youth workers online, and being professionally integrated in that sense. So identity growth, it's another area of competences. So this is for youth workers. And that's how it looks. There is a publication, again, available on our platform. And in each competence area, there are smaller sub-competences. And here, the competences are developed into levels: elementary, fair, good, and excellent, plus 3 areas. One is complexity of task. Then looking at youth engagement, because one of the principles of youth work and digital youth work is to be able to engage young people in everything we do. And then another aspect, non-formal learning. It's important. So you, as a youth worker, you can use this matrix to mark where you feel you are at the level, and then in 3 categories. How are able you to deal with complex tasks, and then you find the statements helping you to identify how much you are practicing youth engagement, and how much whatever you do with young people, it is also following non-formal learning approaches. What we invite you to do is find colleagues to exercise this competence assessment together, because it's easier to interpret different statements, also help each other, and sometimes give feedback. When you work together, when you volunteer together, you might get a better observation about each other's capabilities. And together with partners, we're building the same model online on the platform, so soon it will be available also to use it online. Another assessment tool which you may want to practice on organizational level, looking at organization as a whole. This is assessment tool to look at digital capacities of youth work organization. So how much your organization is doing and ready to do digital youth work. And this assessment tool is around 5 areas. One is looking at leadership of digital transition. How do you lead digital transition as organization? What are the views and kind of messages from management around digital youth work? Another area looks at the working culture and looking how much organization allows to enter into innovative iteration mode, where you try out certain things, look how it works, adapt, and continue using it if it works. It needs to have open-minded working culture and ready to transform, because digital youth work will affect what we do with young people. And we shouldn't be afraid, but look at it and manage. Another area is digital competence for youth workers and young people. What kind of strategies do we have to implement and support competence development for youth workers? How much time young people or youth workers can have to go on courses, explore what is digital youth work, experiment with the digital tools before we implement this with young people, without needing to take holidays, maybe without needing to take free time, but it's part integrated in their daily work routines. That's important element. And again, for young people, what kind of programs and activities you offer to develop their essential digital literacies. Infrastructure, it's an important element. Like you would have a youth center with offices, maybe space for young people, a building, a car. If you do mobile youth work, you go around your district and implement services where people are. So what kind of digital infrastructure you have? What investment is needed? What do you prioritize? Do you want to work more with virtual reality and then you invest into virtual reality gear? Or maybe you want to have a gaming room where young people can safely practice e-gaming together, not alone in isolation with random people, and so on. So infrastructure matters, because that keeps the digital youth work also sustainable. Even software, sometimes you need to carefully select what you want to have it, considering the rights of young people to be safe, to be where privacy is protected, and so on. And 5th area, it's quality assessment, looking at how do you monitor digital youth work, what kind of information you collect to make evaluation and informed decisions about what works well in digital youth work programs, and also showing impact of digital youth work to funders, communities, and outsiders who might question always, why do you have this fancy game room? What does it give to young people? It's so expensive. Maybe they're just having fun and that's it, which is commonly also misinterpreted the youth work as such. So quality assessment system is important. You can demonstrate that you are serious about digital youth work. So continuing on organizational level, with this course and with activities we will be offering on platform, what we want you to start reflecting is, what is your digital strategy in terms of youth work? Do you have one, or you just improvise? Maybe that's a good way to start, but then you would need to build up. How staff volunteers are supported in digital skill development, so how we are really developing their necessary competences. How ready are you for blended and online youth work, which will be a different form of youth work next to what you do already? So how this digital youth work will be part of your youth work services, youth work activities, youth work portfolio. And then few takeaway messages from my side. Digital competence is about empowerment, not just only tools. We need to go beyond tools. Tools will change, tools will transform, tools will disappear, but we want people to be empowered through using digital technology at hand, which is now available, accessible, and used. We see youth workers as digital facilitators, mentors, and role models. So if we often say, if youth workers are against digital, very often nothing will happen in the youth center around that. But if youth workers are eager to learn, they are not afraid to take and experiment, they kind of model that, and young people take that kind of role model as an example. And then in order to have sustainable change in organizations, organizational support is critical. Managers of youth work programs, of youth work organizations, decision makers, policy makers need to support digital youth work on organization level, maybe district level, national level, and of course, international level. So without that support, it will be nice tries to do one or two activities, maybe use one tool, but it will not be sustainable because it needs to be well cared and catered to long-term goals of organization. Yes, and just to finish up, on the digital systemic platform, we start collecting variety of resources, activities for digital youth work organizations to start implementing digital youth work, again, not only as a tool, but rather as systemic strategic activity. So throughout the resources accessible on the platform, you can start navigating and seeing what is important for your organization and implement it with young people, youth workers, and on management level.